Elgato has sent through their new Facecam 4K webcam, but can you tell it apart from a mirrorless camera, and how well does it perform in different lighting scenarios? Well, it is a big old unit which is capable of 4K and 60 frames per second, and it comes with uncompressed footage with the option of dropping the resolution and frame rate down if required. It is made of plastic and extremely lightweight, but you do get more weight once it has been mounted on its base. A great feature which unfortunately I'm unable to test personally is that lens filters can be attached to this. These can deliver some pretty nice additional looks to your final image. It comes with a USB-C to USB-C cable to get yourself hooked up. I have tried it with a USB-C to USB-A cable from another webcam, and I found that I was limited to 1080p but still got 60 frames per second frame rate. I tried a USB 3.0 converter but found I was still limited to 1080p using this method too. The head can be tilted downwards and back to its starting position. If you want to rotate it, then you will need to unscrew it, put it in position and then tighten it back up. This base can be completely removed and you can mount it onto your own tripod if that's how you prefer your setup. This is a studio webcam with a 4.0 aperture, so it's going to work best with a lot of light available, and ideally you want to use manual settings in the Camera Hub software. In a completely dark room with just the glow coming from our monitors, and we can be seen but there is a lot of noise to the image. Even with that lack of light, the frame rate looks really good, with the movement looking nice and fluent. Now if you're displaying something bright on your monitor, then this will really improve the image, and you can expect a massive improvement to the noise of the image too, so it would be good enough for a very quick video call. With natural light coming in through the window, and we are overexposed on the one side of our face where that light is coming in, but I kind of expected that. Now there has been a massive clear up with all that noise in the background, and the colours and the image quality is looking really good. We are getting the full 60 frames per second in the 4K mode, but in the Camera Hub software there is an option for that dynamic range, so I thought we'll give this a go and select the high setting. Now there's been a decrease in the image quality. It doesn't look fantastic, but I did notice that we could see through that window now, so I thought let's have a sit in front of the window and see how it actually looks. Now using the normal mode, you can see it's quite a dark image, but we do get a little bit of detail on that window, but it is quite washed out. Once again, you'll probably get away with a quick video call like this. I did switch it to the wide option, and this did bring more light to the image, which means there's more chance of us being seen now, but it still looks quite grainy, so not an amazing final picture we gain here. I then tried the high option, and we get a bit more detail through that window now. There does seem to be more noise with this option as well, so to me it looks as though there is a decrease in image quality, but at least you're not completely blown out in front of a window, so you may actually get away with it. If you only have the light in your room, then this will give you a bit of an idea of how it could look. Now the positioning of you, your light, and the kind of light that you've got will affect the overall image. You can tell where my light is by it bouncing off my bald head. It is a bit of a grainy overall image, but we still get that really high frame rate. So in an ideal world, you will want some ring lights that you have directly in front of you. And then when we turn on my ring lights, you can see that there's a big difference in the overall image quality. And we do get a nice crisp picture. If you have the ability to turn your lights up and down, then this will save you manually configuring that exposure. But to be fair, the auto exposure does a pretty good job. When we switch on some backlights behind me, I feel like this gives me a better overall picture. The colour on my face just seems better. Having these lights on in the background will help reduce that noise you get in the background as well. But we do get a noise reduction option in the Camera Hub software, which I will come on to shortly. Now this is a fixed focus lens, which means if you bring anything close to that lens, it will become blurry. You need to be a good 8 inches or so away for things to be in focus, which means that if you're trying to show some details on an ID card for example, it's going to be very blurry when you're next to that lens, so you will need to be a bit of a distance away, and only then will the info be readable. Removing a green screen in OBS, and I did find this to be a little bit of a struggle. Now I know my lighting setup is not the best, but I do normally have better results than this with other webcams that I've tested. Now when I do bring one of the lights over to where there's a lot of pixelation, it does resolve the issue. I did try having to play around with the sliders in OBS, but I started to lose detail on my shirt. Probably didn't help that I had a yellow logo on the front. So if you do want to use this with a green screen, just make sure your lighting and the position of that green screen is on point for it to work well. And now for the Camera Hub software. You can enable face tracking. This will drop the resolution down to 1080p as it can't be used in the 4K mode. When you zoom in a little using the sliders, you can now move yourself around and it will keep your head in the centre of the frame. It is a little jerky when it moves around, but it does do a pretty decent job. Even when you zoom right in, it still manages to track you pretty well. We also get 4 presets for the zoom, so select what you would like to zoom into, hold down your left mouse button on one of the letters and this will save that preset. And now it's very easy to toggle between these 4 different positions, but do expect a loss in quality the more that you are zoomed in. Under picture, we have the usual options, where you can manually configure contrast, saturation, and sharpness. And if you make a mess of this, you can click on the undo button. You can do that for all these options in here. Now for the exposure, on the automatic setting, you do get a few options that you can play around with. We can go between the average metering, center weighted metering, and the spot metering options. Here is a list of what each of these will do. You can use the compensation slider to brighten and darken that image, and this does help remove that glow from my bald head. You can also switch that dynamic range from standard to wide or to high as previously shown. And again, here is a list of what each of those options do. You can switch the exposure to manual. This gives you sliders to adjust the shutter speed and the ISO settings, so if you're really trying to fine tune that image, this is what you want to use. The automatic white balance seems to do a really good job on this, but you can manually configure it if you want to. Now this ranges from 2400K up to 10,000K, so you can really fine tune that temperature, but as I say, I found the auto settings to do a good enough job. Now the processing allows you to remove noise from the image, so with it disabled you can see there's some flickering on my chair and on my carpet, but when we switch this to high, it pretty much removes all of that noise. You can play around and lower that setting, you can even do a custom setting if you want to, but this will all depend on your own environment. You don't even need a green screen with this because you can enable the AI backgrounds. When we use the blur, it does a pretty good job to be fair. We have got the intensity slider as well if you want to blur out more of that background. We do get a little bit of artifacting, especially around my head, but I have seen worse than this. When you are using the other backgrounds, then I notice that you do get more artifacting with these, plus you don't get that slider. But it is a good way if you want to clear up that background very quickly, especially if you're doing a video call and it's very messy behind you. We get 5 preset LUTs in here as well, and you do get the intensity slider for these, so you can fine tune how you want that final image to look. What's quite good is that you can add your own LUTs into this, or you can get access to the Elgato marketplace and you can download free ones from there. Now the eye contact is great if you want to look at your screen but make it look as though you are looking at the webcam. Very good if you're trying to get out of doing work. Now it does come with a few issues. The main one I've found is that sometimes it makes me look very cockeyed, and if my eyes actually look like that, I think I need to go and see the optician. Sometimes the eyes will veer from looking at your screen back to the webcam, then back to the screen, then back to the webcam. Especially if you start turning your head left and right, you'll notice that my eyes are jumping from the webcam to the screen. Now throughout this test, I am constantly looking at the screen. I've not looked at the webcam once. So overall, it does do a decent job, but you will have occasions where your eyes just veer from one to the other. And here is the big reveal for which one was the mirrorless camera and which one was the Elgato Facecam 4K.